Hello, welcome back to the Caring Conversation Studio, live from the NEC in Birmingham. We're here with Paula. Hi, Paula.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
It's a great show as always.
As always. Right, do you want to tell us who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm Paula Cashmore. I'm also known as the Mary Poppins of social care because I have a lot in my bag. I've got a lot of experience and I'm a face-to-face care quality consultant, and I do full quality audits of CQC regulated services, and I've also set up an online support platform for care managers, deputies and providers.
So let's talk about the framework. I'm not going to call it the new framework because it's been about a while now. What are your thoughts on it?
I think CQC have tried hard to make the framework simple, make it across the board, but I don't think they've quite hit the mark where social care is concerned. It's still NHS-centric, and it gives broad brushstrokes as to the requirements in the quality statements. But what I do think is that they haven't linked it to the regulations as much as they possibly could have.
Okay, so I've spoken to probably a fairly small sample size, but maybe about 20 different people, and it feels to me that it's sort of split 50-50. Some people like it, some people don't like it. It sounds like you're kind of like yes and no. You enjoy it. So what should people be looking out for then? How can people, when they've got an impending inspection, or I think they might be getting an inspection, what should they be doing?
I think the main thing is to remember that the regulations haven't changed. So if you're delivering care according to the regulations, and one of my phrases is good care is good care. Now, most people try to deliver good care, and as long as you evidence the care that you give, then you won't fall foul of any regulations and you won't fall foul of any of the quality statements.
Okay. And have you worked with anyone that's had an inspection recently?
I haven't actually. I know I've been in touch with a few that have. There was a great Caring View podcast recently with people that had an inspection, and different people have had different experiences. I think for a lot of people it's been quite onerous, but I think we need to have confidence. One of the main things that I try to do on my platform and in my mentoring is to ensure that managers know where the boundaries are, because there will be regulators, whether that's local authority or CQC inspectors, that come and say, I want to see this. Classic example was a manager said, I don't know where to put a hydration station in my lounge because all of our residents have dementia and they wouldn't understand it and it would cause a hazard. But there's nowhere in the regulations that says you must have a hydration station. This was a preference of a CQC inspector. So to be able to empower managers to say that isn't suitable for my environment, I am compliant with the regulations and I provide good nutrition and hydration, that should be enough.
I guess it takes a certain amount of confidence to be able to kind of say, well, hang on a minute, this is incorrect, that I've done it like this. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and I think we find in the care sector, I'm working with a lovely lady on some wellbeing resources. Her name's Norma, and she has this phrase that sometimes people can become accidental managers, whereby they don't set out to progress in their career through carer, senior, deputy and managers, but they just seem to find the doors open, and sometimes they're pressurised into taking the next step. And they're not always prepared adequately for that, so they lack a great deal of confidence. That's where I really, really like to go in and give them the backup, stand by their side and say, okay, where are your problems? What do you need? And again, with the workload for managers, there's a lot of duplication put on them, and they haven't got the skills or the support to know, I don't have to do all this, I can condense it and still have a good governance package.
It is, I think people underestimate how difficult managing other people is. As you step into that role, you think, well, I can do that because I've done that role. But actually, it's a whole new skill set that you need to learn, and you need to be able to kind of put the other people in front of yourself to be an effective leader. You need to be able to kind of go, well, I eat last, I'm the one, it's my job to make sure these people are comfortable in their roles. And it can be that switch from deputy or even senior carers straight to managers, I think quite a difficult one to make in any organisation.
Especially when the sector doesn't often provide the leadership training that's necessary. We forget that people are different, they've got different strengths and different development areas. So managers will often, if they're an accidental manager, they will often try and impose their way of doing things on a staff body that isn't ready for that way or doesn't work well in that way. So managers need to be able to step back and say, how can I manage this person to get the best of their ability, and who can fill in the gaps where that person needs development, where's another person strong, and engaging in that teamwork and understanding your team is a real way of being a good manager.
There's often the most competent person in the role gets promoted to become a manager, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be a good manager.
No, Peter principle.
You touched on well-being. Have you got any kind of well-being tips for care homes, for residents or team members?
Yeah, we have to set boundaries. We have to have some professional boundaries. Have to remember, you can be friends with your staff, you can be friendly with your staff, but they're not your friends. If you really do have a friend within the staff group that you have had since you have been a senior and you've worked deputy and manager, a true friend will let you manage them professionally. And so it's a case of, remember, you're not there to keep everyone happy. I was at a Care Connector event in Manchester, and one of the phrases that I used was, you can please some of the people all of the time. You can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. So don't even try. Don't get upset when some people are upset at you. They often don't have the big picture. They don't have your responsibility. So you can't go changing your management style just for somebody who's a bit upset at what you do. Yes, you can have feedback. I think it's really valuable in order to listen to your staff. They are your key to success, is listening to your staff. But once you have taken all of their views into account, you then make that executive decision. Stick to your decision, see how it goes, and then also be willing to say, okay, I got it wrong, I'm going to try a different path.
I think, you talk about boundaries. I think something that would be good was, the idea of kind of texting outside of work, or like approaching for shifts. I think you should get explicit permission from people whether, can you text them on a Sunday afternoon to say, can you cover Sunday night or Monday morning? Because that causes a lot of stress for people. And if you do have to do it in a way which you recognise that you're pushing the boundary, right, of something that you shouldn't be doing. If I ever have a need to text my team outside of work, it'll often start with, I'm really sorry I'm texting you, and it genuinely will be a reason. Often I'll just save it for the next day because there's no need to send it. So I think setting boundaries like that is quite important.
And very, very often it's setting the boundaries and making it known what those boundaries are. It's an area for development. It's also empowering your staff, because what I find is a lot of staff within a care setting will text a manager who's off duty for reassurance that their decision is okay. Now, if the manager empowers their staff to make decisions that are routine, that they've been trained for, without consequence of, without fear of any negative consequence, if they happen to make the wrong decision, you just put things right. So then a manager has set the boundaries, they've freed themselves up and allowed that staff member to make a decision and empowered them and developed them.
And then it saves the manager the stress of answering a question they don't really need to answer. It's been really interesting. So any final top tips?
I think look after your manager. The manager is the legally accountable person with CQC. So invest in your manager's development, invest in your manager's well-being, and I think you will have a really good service.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming in today, Paula.
Thank you, York.
We will be back shortly with another interview.